It's not that often anymore that I am super excited for new games, let alone new content for an existing one. I was pretty impartial about Cyberpunk, even though I now already spent 100 hours into that game and I love it. New Last Epoch content is nice to see, but doesn't get me pumped per se. But this reveal yesterday of Path of Exile, it is absolutely nuts. Hey everyone, Thyworm here, and today I want to give my thoughts about the new league, Echoes of the Atlas, as well as an overview. It's pretty clear that the new expansion is an endgame focused league, with yet another Atlas overhaul. The Atlas was introduced in 2016 with the Shaper as its final boss. It received two major updates. In the War of the Atlas in 2017, GGG added the Elder, and the Shaper and Elder went to war trying to control the Atlas. About a year ago, the Conquerors of the Atlas introduced Cirrus the Awakener and his lieutenants. You could still do Shaper, Elder and Uber Elder, but not on the Atlas itself anymore. And in the new expansion, Echoes of the Atlas, another final boss appears next to Cirrus. She's called the Maven, and it's up to you to entertain her by fighting several unique bosses simultaneously. If she's amused, you can take her on yourself and of course get great loot. All this will coexist with Cirrus, so everything Atlas related is just an add-on to an already impressive endgame system. On top of that, add 11 new maps with 11 new unique bosses, and we got plenty of stuff to do. You'll encounter the Maven in a boss area of a map. She buffs the boss fight and she gives you her beacon, which you can then use to summon the Maven via the map device, so she can watch more fights and is more and more impressed. At some point, she will lay out a challenge for you, fighting multiple unique bosses, up to 10 at the same time. That's going to be totally nuts, by the way. Defeat these bosses and you get Atlas passive points, very similarly to completing the labyrinth and receiving ascendancy points. You can then spend these Atlas passive points in a special passive tree dedicated to a specific part of the Atlas, for example Lex Proxima. The Atlas passive points give you bonuses to all the maps in that region. These bonuses are grouped by all the league mechanics. You have specific Delve passives, Breach passives, Legion passives, etc. You can respec the passives as well, although I imagine it will not be cheap. This is an interesting system because it makes mapping in the Atlas a lot more deterministic. You can specialize certain parts of the Atlas to give you certain bonuses and then only run maps in that region to target farm certain content. If you like Breach, you can take Breach passives, do a lot of maps there and play a lot of Breach. Previously, if you liked Breach, there were very few ways to activate more Breach spawns, apart from Scarabs and a few other things. But Scarabs aren't that easy to find and these passive Atlas bonuses are permanent for every map in that zone. On top of them, you could still run Scarabs or other map modifiers, increasing the map juice significantly. This is not all the Maven provides. She also grants Watchstones, which can be rolled and crafted, just like potions. These Watchstones can replace the Conqueror's Watchstones that you will also still get to progress the Atlas, just like in last league. This time, however, the Maven Watchstones contain properties like the previous Ivory Watchstones you got from Cirrus. Bigger monster packs, more loot, chances for white sockets, max sockets, and God knows what. It adds another layer of deterministic mapping, and stacking bonuses can increase certain drops significantly, thus giving the players more control over the Atlas and taking away a little bit of RNG. If you play endgame long enough, you will have an Atlas full of specialized regions using the Atlas passives, 32 crafted Watchstones, each giving a certain bonus, Sextants to use on those Watchstones, Conquerors that influence maps, rolled and corrupted maps itself, items you can put in the map device, and the device bonuses you can buy with Chaos Orbs. Mapping is going to be extremely fun and rewarding, and you better bring a build that can handle all the juice. Finally, just like the previous final bosses and Conquerors dropped orbs, which you could use to influence items, so does the Maven, should you defeat her. This time, the Maven orb doesn't give you a new influence, however. There is no Maven influence, like there is Shaper influence, but this time it acts on existing influenced modifiers. If you have an item with two influenced modifiers, the Maven orb removes one of those and upgrades the other one to a higher tier. We don't know all the results yet, but this could lead to insanely powerful items because you can still slam afterwards with an exalted orb to fill up the empty modifier slot. And should you get another influence modifier, you're looking at a pretty crazy item. This is going to be very high-end crafting, probably for the 0.2% of players, but this is something GGG likes to do. And if you do plan on spending 500 or 1000 or more hours into the game and you're on the trade league, this is a whole new thing altogether. Next to this massive endgame overhaul, there is a new Challenge League. The Challenge League differs each league, whereas the Echoes of the Atlas will remain active throughout several of the upcoming leagues. Everything I just talked about is going to be there for probably the next 3 or 4 leagues. The Challenge League, however, changes every time. The previous Challenge League was Heist, and before that Harvest, etc. This league, the Challenge League, is Ritual. Ritual is a little bit like Kadiro, the dude that scams you for the per annum coins. This league, each map and zone contain a ritual altar that you need to click and defeat monsters. Very similar to how you use them in Grim Dawn, actually. Defeat the monsters and you gain tribute. It's a currency you can then spend in a reward menu while you're in the map to get certain items. Do more shrines in that zone, get more tribute and get more special items, basically. This mechanic should mix up the game quite a bit while going through the campaign. I think rewards could be really interesting, especially in solo self-found, and the mechanic seems fun and potentially very challenging. You can save monsters as well in some sort of gem and activate them later, but that is still a little vague, so I'm not getting into that here. It's also very rare, apparently. The rewards of the rituals are special base types, which have a strong positive and strong negative modifier as their implicit. This is flat out stolen from the latest Blood Trail Chronicle in Bolson, but who cares, right? Bolson is more concerned with catching gold farmers than with fixing their game, so let's just use their greatest assets and put it in a game that actually works. I don't mind. Back to the items. If you can somehow offset the negatives, you can create some super strong items here, and getting this figured out is going to be fun. GGG overhauled all Ascendancy classes, and 3 in particular are reworked massively. The Deadeye, Elementalist and Inquisitor. I have only recently started making my own builds after like playing 1200 hours or so I don't feel confident commenting on this, but it's safe to say it will change up the way these classes play. And something that Chris mentioned a few times struck me as well, and that is simplification. The Ascendancies are simplified, meaning it should be more obvious what they do. Path of Exile is one of the most complicated games of all time, adding layer on layer on layer on layer of different game mechanics. It makes the game also one of the best games of all time, but getting into it is a struggle, a 500-hour struggle in my case. Once you're in though, you're set. And making things a bit more simplistic should help people give a better idea of what's going on for their classes. It's a good thing. We get 2 new gems as well, a skill gem and a support gem. The Hydrosphere skill gem summons a huge sphere of water, and it acts very much like the Ball of Oriana in League of Legends. You can move it around and imbue it with other elemental spells. It then starts to radiate that elemental damage. Just the skill itself looks complicated and requires at least 1 more skill to hit the sphere in order to really be effective, it seems. New skill gems are often underwhelming and take about a league to be viable, so be aware of that. The support skill, Trinity, seems to steer you towards creating a build with all 3 elemental damage types. The more different elemental spells you use, the more damage each of those spells deal. A very interesting concept, combined with the Elementalist overhaul and passive notables like Equilibrium and Elemental Overload. Damage could be pretty nuts, but creating a build that uses all 3 elemental damage types is not that easy. Next to these 2 new gems, another 40 existing gems received a buff and a few others a rework, a nerf basically. Of course, we get a bunch of uniques, 10 to be exact, and that's always cool. Old challenge leagues make their return. Harvest, which is amazing news for the crafting enthusiasts. Harvest got me into crafting in the first place, so I'm happy we get it back. And the last league, Heist, will be in the game as a nice bunch of side content. It's honestly overwhelming how much stuff we're getting next week. It all releases on January 15th. I'm planning on playing solo self-found. I'm going to start with a cookie cutter build, probably Caustic Arrow Toxic Rain, and then just enjoy and grind the league. Depending on what drops, I'm going to reroll a character or 2, and I'm really excited to get started. Hope you enjoyed the video, ladies and gents, that it was useful and that you had a good overview. See you soon. Bye bye.